Art Tapio.
All strata of society in terms of race, religion, all assembled here to pay their tribute to someone who we are now known as the father of the nation.
I'm wondering though, Nazim, in terms of the significance of us being able to celebrate and continue to celebrate the life and works of Dr. Jagan, how significant do you think that is that we continue to do that on a year-to-year basis?
History. If we erase history, we will tend to be a loss in the future. And so we must remember where we come from. We must remember the good times, the bad times, the times that sometimes caught us quite unaware. And so we have to. We have to remember those who make a contribution. We have to remember those who would have not made contribution even though they were at a different level of decision making. And so a success between who really did what to make our country what it is today. So it's important that a day like this must be observed so that we could remember.
Definitely. And as we were witnessing there a little while ago, we saw some of the folks that are gathered here, taking part and being able to enjoy some music, the African drumming and Tassa drumming. And we are waiting the arrival of the president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali. But again, we were talking about the program. Let's continue to shed some light on some of the things that are going to be happening here. You mentioned those different groups and organizations that will be paying tributes. Significant again.
Right. And that goes to show, you mentioned labor, GAU. Dr. Jagan was a part of that movement. I mean, that was birthed with someone way back before. And it's always good to remember. On May 5th, we always remember Hubert Nathaniel Critchlow, because we have to remember the struggle of the people. Dr. Jagan and his people piggyback on those struggles, because at that time, you were fighting our colonial masters, ensuring for justice, ensuring for equal rights, equal pay, equal work, and so forth. Women's rights by his late wife. And so, yes, and coming back, that's why you will have those people here who will be making contribution, because those are the people who Dr. Jagan aligned with and struggled for, workers. When you look at, again, I bring back that Enmore Martyrs, those are sugar workers. You see someone who's going to speak from the Rice Producers Association. Of course, rice workers, rice producers, they were always pivotal, and at those times, rice and sugar was always a big thing. Yes, I mean, we still want to make those things are still important. Their rice and sugar are breadwinners for people, and so when you remove those without an alternative, society crumbles. And so you bring this once a year so people could remember that we must not allow certain things to crumble, because it will have a negative effect on people.
Yeah, definitely. And those are very, very significant things to mention indeed. But I want to just rewind a little bit and talk about the day that Dr. Jagan died. We're talking about March 6, 1997. And that in itself, in terms of the ripple effects that had on the country at that time, because given again the contributions that he would have made before becoming president, even during his tenure as president as well. And that in itself, on that day, March 6, 1997, shook the nation and, of course, shook the entire world, given that, Dr. Jagan's prominence, and there was somebody who was loved, not just here in Guyana, but around the world. You mentioned the United Nations. We can remember vividly some of his most famous speeches at the United Nations, and, of course, in interactions with world leaders around the world. Those engagements, some prominent leaders even visited Guyana as well. And Dr. Jagan, those things we will always remember. But 1997, when he passed, it definitely resonated with us here in Guyana.
Right. There's images of Walter Reed, where he stayed while he was sick. Images of him in a coffin at an airport in Washington as he boarded an airplane and coming to Guyana. There were a lot of people who were numb because people never thought a day like this would have come. And of course, when you thought, well, someone going to one of the best hospitals in the United States, people thought that there would have been a recovery. Sadly, that was never meant to be. A nation, and especially when it came to Berbice here, and even people didn't even um, were able to have a check to know if this thing really happened. And I guess it was only when he came here, the body came here, and was cremated. Then that was, people really know that this was the final, the finality. And so that's why people come here, to remember the event that took place just a couple of yards away from here, the cremation site of Dr. Jagan. I think we have the president coming in now.
So we're witnessing the arrival of the president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali. And of course, he's been greeted and serenaded with the fusion that we spoke about a little while ago of the African drumming and the Tasso drumming, and which is customary. Dr. Jagan is definitely, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali is definitely taking an opportunity to greet persons as he makes his way into the area here at Babujan. And we've seen this from Dr. Ali. Dr. Ali is one of those persons, wherever he goes, always takes the opportunity to engage persons, to shake a hand, you know, offer a smile, a word of encouragement. It's just been one of the things of his presidency that he's done.
The thing is, you were just telling me, oh, the president is coming in. And then I had to look and look because he looks like regular people coming in, right? And then so he didn't really stand out in the crowd because dressed in ordinary T-shirt and so forth. And so yes, that was the person who Dr. Jagan was, the common man. And so that is also who we're celebrating. Someone who rubbed shoulders with the common person who actually spoke their language. I don't know if those footage are still around, but I was privileged to see footage of Dr. Jagan speaking Creolese to people right here in these villages, hearing of their issues and communicating with them in their language, their Creolese. A man on the ground, a man speaking to his own people in their language.
And I think that is why I mentioned a little while ago, he was considered a man for the people, given the mere fact that he went wherever he went. He allowed himself to sort of, you know, blend into the culture of the villages and the communities that he went to. Very, very significant. But we're moments away from the program getting started here at Babujan. We're in Port Morant, like I mentioned. We've just lost the sunshine a little bit, but that breeze, a gentle breeze, you know, which makes it very, very refreshing.
And now we're having the anthem.
I'd like to call this program to order. I'd like to first of all acknowledge the presence of Comrade Irfan Ali, our President, our Vice President and General Secretary, Dr. Bara Jagdeo, executive members of our party, comrades, all. I now invite the comrades from the PYO to garland our leaders. Thank you very much. Prime Minister, Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips is here with us as well. And I now invite our comrades and the party leaders to proceed to the site of the monument so we can have the laying of the wreaths.
Is that The call was made for those who are going to be laying wreaths at the monument site. And we see it's headed there. I see the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister is leading, followed by the President, followed by the Vice President. And so they're heading in that direction to lay the wreaths in tribute. There were literally thousands of people here. I wasn't here. Later on, I would have seen a documentary as to what took place here. It was really a very sad moment to see, someone who a country would have known, who really formed the political movement in this country, and to see that legacy, come to an end. But then, knowing fully well that those who would have come after him would have made it quite clear that they're not going to forget that legacy. And even though times have changed, at that time, cell phone was almost not really the big thing. Although time has changed, the mere fact is people are still taking that time off to come here, make a sacrifice in itself to pay tribute, to honor the legacy of the late Dr. Cherry Jagan. That is something I'm quite sure will continue. I'm quite sure, and this goes for freedom fighters all across the world. One person come to mind is Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. People are still remembering him. In America, they're not going to forget the Reverend Martin Luther King. They're still going to remember him. Guyana, we've paid tributes. We've got the tributes at the Seven Pond. And the first person to be laid there was Sir David Rose. We have the 76th Tree Monument. And this is our culture, that we must remember those who would have made that valuable and sort of a contribution to our country. That is what is happening right now, face to face, by laying that wreath. And of course, when you look at the wreath laying ceremony, in December, we proudly wear red what? We wear
red poppies.
We wear that. And who are we honoring?
We're definitely honoring the persons who contributed in terms of the fight in the World War.
Fallen heroes,
fallen
who
heroes.
went to represent the colonial powers and fighting people who would have oppressed humankind. And so, yes, globally, we have a culture of remembering. And we will pick and choose who we remember based upon the contribution they make, the immense contributions. Mind you, every one of us here in Guyana, we would have made our own contribution in so many ways. In terms of, theater. I've dabbled in theater for the longest while. Our CEO dabbled in theater for so long. So we would have made that contribution there. And then, of course, all of those contributions will be at some point in time be remembered.
Definitely. And significant that they are remembered, Nazim, but we see Dr. Jack Dio, the General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party, making his way back from, of course, paying tributes to the father of the nation. And we have the Prime Minister, the Honorable Brigadier Mark Phillips as well, following shortly behind him, and the President, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali as well, there paying tribute to a man which definitely, who we can say definitely made significant contributions. And the mere fact that we are here some 26 years later, and these contributions of a man like Dr. Jagan, it's definitely significant, given that, persons will continue, even in large number, 20-something years later on, to remember and to pay tribute. It means that those contributions were significant and sterling indeed over the years.
When you see persons who we were just on screen there, like Dr. Bharat Jagdeo, I mean, they grew up within the political party, and so they would have seen and know what Dr. Jagan was, who he was as an individual. And years from now, that is written, and people will still want to honor that, even though we're in different times. But sometimes people like Dr. Jagan, people like Gandhi, they would have been at one time, and what they would have done, said, and the impact they would have made would last for time immemorial.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening today.
Definitely. And as we continue to pay tributes and celebrate the life and works of Dr. Jagan here at Babu John, a breezy Port Morant on a very hot and sunny day here in Port Morant, we're going to hand you over to the program, which is just about to begin. We've got those persons assembled there as part of the head table, as we say, persons who are going to be making those key remarks on stage, and persons continue to throng this place over. And I know you mentioned over the years, and we definitely must allow you to enjoy what is going to be happening here now.
We're over to the stage now.
On the 6th of May, 1997. And today, 105 years after his birth and 26 years after his death, we're all gathered here to celebrate his life and to remember his works. Dr. Jagan made it his life's work to fight for the Guyana that you and I now enjoy. And so today, I am honored, I'm privileged, and I'm humbled to welcome each and every one of you comrades to this venue as we remember the life and works of the late Dr. Cheddi Barrett Jagan. And I also take great privilege in welcoming to the podium our first speaker, who is Dr. Clive Jagan, the nephew of the late Dr. Cheddi Jagan, to give tributes.
Thank you. All protocols observed. My brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, friends and family, comrades all, it is with humility and awe that I stand before you today, this afternoon, as we reflect, rejoice, and pay homage to the life of Dr. Cheddi Jagan. While I'm his nephew, I know that he saw and felt that every Guyanese of any color, of any social status, was his relative, was his mother, was his father, was his brother, was his sister, was his son, was his daughter. And he knew and committed his life to protect, to defend, to struggle, and to uplift every single one of us. Uncle Cheddi, he grew up in these neighborhoods in the full flush of the colonial enterprise, and he saw and experienced firsthand the horrific, degrading, soul-sapping, continuous exploitation of one group of humans against another. As a child, he lived and experienced the world built on an assumption of the superiority of one group over the other, and that was based on skin color. He talked often of the distances, both social and physical, between the white and the non-white worlds, and he found it demoralizing and unbearable. He struggled all his life to crush these distances and for all human beings to be recognized as equals and not to be judged by the color of their skin. Racism for him was aberrant. It was repulsive. Thanks to Uncle Cheddi's efforts and the efforts of a large number of others, we have closed the distances separating one group from another, but there is still more to be done. It is a matter of dismay that we still have appeals to color in our society and race baiting. Exploitation, oppression, and unfair taking from the working class was for him a wrong, a heinous crime that he dedicated his life to undoing. He spoke of his childhood fascination with the ruling class and his desire to know what they did and how they lived between the high fences in their tall houses. He spoke of his Christmas time when the children were allowed in the master's yard and the master's wife would be standing on her veranda throwing pennies down and clapping with glee and watching the children scramble for the crumbs. He raged against transnational corporations sucking wealth out of the underdeveloped countries in the world. Uncle Chetty was a man of infinite patience, and he lived a true life to his deeply held values. Values of honesty, integrity, and peace. He was never seduced by the glitz and glamour. He lived a simple life in a simple house. One visiting him one day would be offered a mango, a star apple, a sapodilla, and a glass of probably coconut water. Whatever faults other may have found in him, he was never faulted for his probity and integrity. He never wavered from his dedication to the struggle for freedom and the upliftment of all. And in this struggle, he remained committed and true to peaceful and democratic methods. He never fell prey to expediency and sellout. Even though election after election was stolen from the PPP, he never wavered from the parliamentary, democratic, and people-supported struggle. Here this afternoon, I take the opportunity to call on my brothers and sisters on the other side of the political divide, not to fall prey to the appeals to violence and turning guns on those politically opposed to us. Guyana has come a far way, thanks in no small measure to Dr. Chetty Jagan and the People's Progressive Party. Here, I would like to take this opportunity to commend the President Irfan Ali, Vice President and General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party, Dr. Jagdeo, and all the members of the party carrying the torch and advancing the country, informed by the vision of Dr. Chetty Jagan for freedom, unity, and equality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jagan. And also with us here at Babujan, we have Ms. Nadira Jagan Brancier. So let's acknowledge her presence with a loud round of applause. And let us also invite her to join us on stage and to as well give a tribute.
Good afternoon, everyone. President Ali, General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party, distinguished guests, members of the Jagan family, comrades and friends. Thank you all today for coming out to remember my mother and my father, Dr. and Mrs. Chetty Jagan. On behalf of myself and the Chetty Jagan Research Center, we would like to also invite everyone here whenever they're in Georgetown to visit Red House, which is where the Chetty Jagan Research Center is located. Today I'm not going to talk about my dad as a politician. I think most people know his history, know that the work he's done. I just want to talk about him and my mother as parents who I was honored to have them as parents. They were loving, kind, generous, wonderful parents who, even though they had such a busy, busy life, found the time to spend with me and my brother Joey. One of the first things I would like to talk about is just the generosity of my mother when she first came to Guyana, the generosity of her bringing my father's brothers and sisters to live with them in Georgetown, to give them an education, to help them further themselves the way my grandparents, especially my grandfather, had helped to send my father away to university to do dentistry. When my father became premier and we lived at Red House from 1961 to 1964, obviously those years he would have been under a lot of stress and a lot of pressure with the politics, but he still found time to do things with me. He's actually taught me to swim at Laku Pool. It was one of his main relaxation that he could do, and also he played lawn tennis. After the PPP was kicked out of government in 1964, we moved to Camp Street, and we lived there from 64 to 66. Sometimes when my mother would travel overseas, and it was just myself and my dad there and my brother, my dad would take me to the late night show at the Plaza Cinema, and we would watch Indian movies. Some of the Indian movies that I could remember going to see with him was Dosti and Sangam. It was a really special time for me and my dad, just spending those times. At Camp Street in 1965, my father sat down at his desk. This desk was bought for him by his father when he came to Georgetown to live in 1943. He sat down to write the Weston Trial. And by 1966, it was published. We moved into the house in Plantation Bel Air in 1966. My parents had bought the piece of property from Uncle Ramkaran, who owned the whole strip in Plantation Bel Air. And my father designed this house by himself, and he was very proud of it. My mom didn't really have much to do with the designing or the building. So when she finally went up there, every room in the house was a different color. And she was like, no, I can't live in this house with all these different colors. So the entire house, except for my bedroom, was painted white. This was the first home that my parents ever owned from 1943 to 1966. One of the really good things, especially for my father, by having their own home, was we had a nice large yard, and my father loved gardening. As a child, he used to work with his mother in the kitchen garden, and he would help her plant, and then they would go and sell it. And one of the things my grandmother did was allow him to keep part of the proceeds for his own. And one of the things he wrote in the Weston Trial was that he learned the elements of finance from his mother and from his father. He learned any leadership qualities he had because my grandfather was a very bold and flamboyant man. But in this yard, my father was a time when he could relax and have a peaceful time by himself planting. Our yard is so many fruit trees, almost every fruit you can think of. The only fruit I can think of that we didn't have in the yard was guinea, which was one of my favorites, but we didn't have a guinea tree. Also, he planted a lot of flowering plants. One of his favorite plants that he had was orchids. He started growing orchids. And for me, a special moment is I came back in 1983 to get married, and his orchids were in bloom. And he was really happy. He cut the orchids, and we put them together, and I used that as my wedding bouquet. And for him, he was really proud that I was using his orchids and not some foreign plants. One of the things that we did as a family was go up to Beehive. We used to go up to Beehive, and Clive would remember this. We used to go up there too. The Dragon family had a little house there, and the family would meet, but a lot of times we'd go up alone. And one of the things, Mommy would make fried chicken. That was one of her staples. And we would go on the beach, we would hang a hammock, and Daddy would rest in the hammock, and we would all play on the beach. The hammock for my father was like, you couldn't think of Teddy Dragon without having a hammock next to him. He always had a hammock at home. Like I said, he had one on the beach. At Freedom House, next to his office, in the room next to where his office was, there was a hammock where he would nap in the afternoons. He also had one at OP and one at State House when he was president. The children, he they eventually had 5 grandchildren in the 1980s, and the grandchildren, when he was president at State House, used to sit and wait for him in his bedroom while he worked in his office, waited for him to come out and play with them and rock them in the hammock. My mom and dad also used to enjoy, in their spare time, going to the seawall. That was just a nice leisurely walk on the seawall. Not just on the seawall, but we'd go on the beach with the grandchildren. One of the other things that my mom especially liked was going to the zoo. Some of her favorite animals were the harpy eagle, the cockatiel, and the water dog. If you've ever read any of her children's stories that she's written, she wrote these children's stories for the grandchildren as birthday gifts during the 80s, 90s, when there wasn't really much to send for these grandchildren who were all living overseas. She would write stories, and most of these stories are about the animals of Guyana. While we lived in Bel Air, my dad had a nice, huge study, and he would work there for long hours at night. While I was studying for my GCE, he used to help me by quizzing me and making sure I knew the answers for my studies. One of the things that I remember about my mother was instrumental in myself becoming a goldsmith, because she had bought this kit with copper wire and synthetic gemstones, which she'd always wanted to do, but actually never really found the time. And I'd found these, and I started making jewelry with it, and that's how I became involved. And without the inspiration and backing of my mother, I probably would never have been able to do this. As you know, my dad was a dentist, and he didn't like bubble gum. He hated bubble gum. He thought it ruined your teeth. And one birthday, when mommy always took care of the birthday gifts, daddy never really had to do that. But one birthday, she was away, and she must have forgotten to leave something for my birthday. So he went to the shop, and he bought me a whole bag of candy, chocolates, and chewing, but it had bubble gum in it, and to me, that was like, wow. That was the best gift probably I ever had. My father, if you read his book, you would have known that when he was in the United States, one of the jobs he had in Washington, D.C. was worked in a pawn shop, and he used to mend clothes. So he learned tailoring while he was in Port Morant. And he still enjoyed doing that. We had this old, actually, we still have it. You can see it at Red House, up in the museum we have of his office. And it was an old pedal sewing machine, and he actually taught me to sew on this sewing machine. So we spent a lot of hours there. Oh, well then I can't look at anybody then. Can you turn it slightly? Yeah, I could. How close you gotta hold it? Oh, that close? Oh, okay. One of the things I wanted to talk about was my father was a very frugal man. He didn't believe in wasting money. And there's a lot of instances showing that. One, like I was just talking about him mending his clothes. He didn't like to have to go and buy new clothes. He would mend it. He would change the style of his pants from when they had hems on pants and when they didn't, and different things like that. His way of writing articles and conserving paper, he never wrote on a plain piece of paper, a clean sheet of paper. They used to get a lot of printed material from different countries, probably a lot from the Soviet Union. And so what he would do is he would write in the back, this is the printed side, he would write in the back. And he wrote all his articles like that. But one of the problems with writing on these papers is he wrote mostly with a fountain pen. And a lot of times, because of the print on the other side, it was very difficult to read what he wrote. One of the other things that he did with his writings, nowadays you have most people use a computer and they use what's called cut and paste. Well, my father was using the cut and paste method way, way back from around the 50s. So he'd be writing an article, and down, maybe on page 3, 4, 5, wherever, he'd remember something he wanted to add to which other part of the article he was writing. And he had these little strips of paper that he would cut up and have on his desk. And he would write whatever he wanted to insert in there, and then he would put a little X there and he would staple it to the paper. And I work with a lot of his papers, scanning them, and that's how the website has so many of his articles. Actually, probably 90% of everything written by my mother and father are on the website. I have to scan these, so I have to take these staple parts off, put them at the bottom, and then restaple them. It takes for a long process. One of the things about my parents is they had a really wonderful relationship. My parents never, they weren't like huggy kind of people. They didn't go around kissing each other, stuff like that. But they loved each other tremendously. There's a lot of photographs of my parents just together, just the two of them looking at each other. And if you ever get a chance to see these pictures, you can see the love between them. They're just like looking at each other, and the love between them is really incredible. I just want to read this one thing that my father wrote about my mother. My wife, she influenced me with a deep and abiding faith in caring for the poor, the disadvantaged and the handicapped, the oppressed and the marginalized, and has a very deep commitment to honesty in politics. As a result, I do not worry about anything. I work together with her very closely. We debate soundly without anything to worry about or anything to hide. Peace of mind is the major factor. When my dad was president and lived at State House, my mother used to pack his lunch with a cup of coffee, fruits, and a sandwich. And he had his little lunch bag that he took with him to to OP, to work. She'd been doing this her whole life with him, and as president, she still carried this on, and he carried his little bag. I don't think you'll find any other president doing this. Just goes to show again how humble he was. My father exercised twice every day, and when he was president, unfortunately, there wasn't really enough time for him to get a lot of exercise, like walking, that he enjoyed doing. So one of the things that he started doing was he would start meeting his ministers at the national park. So the ministers had to come there and they would discuss while they walked. I think some of the ministers might have had a hard time keeping up with him because he walked quite briskly. Sorry. When they were living, after they were out of government, my parents didn't really have help at home. So my mom and dad had their own things that they had to do. Mom did all the shopping in the grocery stores or at the market. She cooked and cleaned the house. Dad's job was to clear the dishes, wash the dishes, and he used to polish the floor. But one of the amazing things, at that time I didn't even know he was doing this, but when I came home in '83 for my wedding, I came home and the floors were really beautiful and they were all nice and polished, and his guard, Ramesh, said to me, your dad was on his hands and knees polishing this floor for you. And I thought, wow, that was amazing. My father, I don't know if most of you know this, but he was always listening to the news. He always had to know what was going on in the world outside, Guyanese news and overseas news. And one of the things that he always had around him was a shortwave radio. He had one in his study, he had one in the bedroom, he had one in the living room. When we would sit down to have breakfast, there was no real talking at the breakfast table because he had to listen to the news. When we would try to figure out what gift could we give my father, because he never really wanted anything. He didn't like expensive gifts. The best gift you could buy my dad was to buy him a shortwave radio. In the 1980s, like I mentioned before, they became grandparents, and they both enjoyed spending so much time with these grandchildren, 5 of them. And my dad would sit on the floor and play with them. He used to take them swimming at the house that used to belong to Burnham. I think they call it Castellani House now. He would take them swimming, and also on the way he would pick up a lot of the comrades who had children and take these children to the pool to swim with him. When he used to go swimming, the guards used to try and shut down the pool so it was just him alone, but he used to get really upset and say, this is a public pool, everybody must be allowed to swim. So people swam with him, and the guards used to get really upset because they were worried somebody would do something to him. Anyway, my parents were really generous people who were always giving gifts. My mom never forgot anybody's birthday. The comrades around Freedom House could attest to this. And also, whenever they traveled, they stayed at the homes of comrades in New York, England, Canada, and they would always, both of them would always buy gifts for the children of these comrades, for something to bring for them. Every single one of you here, even though you may not have met my father, knew that he had the most wonderful smile in the world. He was always smiling. One time I was at Starbuck Market and I saw this Madras material. It was my grandmother used to wear a urni with this Madras material, so I took it home. He was president then, and I showed it to him, and he took it and he tied it and he put it on his head. And I took a picture of it, and he was smiling. He looked so much like my grandmother. And it's one of my most favorite pictures of my father, because it's just so natural. He's just beaming. One of the last times that I spent with my father before he got sick, he visited me in Canada. And he was on his way to the Middle East. And his ADC, I think he was lieutenant or Abrams, I can't remember what the status was at the time. He said to me, Nadira, could you please buy your father a suitcase? The suitcase is all broken up, and it's really embarrassing. And my father's like, there's nothing wrong with the suitcase, Nadira, just don't worry about it. Anyway, he was there, and I think it was a Saturday. And when dignitaries visit foreign countries, the governments of the countries supply guard, police protection. So we had all these police around my house, and we told them, you know, you guys can go, we're not leaving anywhere. So that morning we woke up and we decided to go to a mall, just my dad, myself, and my two children, who were very little at the time. So we went to the mall to look for a suitcase for my father, and we bought a red one that he picked out, big red suitcase. It was really nice. And at the time, he was having problems with his feet. The shoes were tight. They were pinching him and stuff, and he needed a new pair of shoes. So I said, let's look at the shoes. We went to the shoe store, and he looked at the prices and said, no, we're not buying these. They're too expensive. So I said, why are you worrying? I'm buying it. Just let's get you some shoes. He said, no. He's going to be going through Italy on the way on his tour, and he would buy shoes. Well, I found out after he passed away when I'd come home, he never even bought the shoes. He was still wearing these shoes that were tight and uncomfortable. But again, he just didn't want to have to spend money. My mom, after Daddy died, she used to come up to Canada and spend 3 weeks to a month with us. And it was really nice to get to know her on a different basis. For her, it was very hard when Daddy passed away. Most people would not know. It was difficult for her. She was quite lonely, but she carried on with the struggle. I am really proud to have had such parents, not just because of who they were politically, but who they were as human beings, for their moral values, their high values of integrity, and the way they live their lives, not just their personal lives, but their political lives. As a teenage girl, I was always really proud that my parents never cheated on each other. They didn't smoke. Mommy smoked for a little bit, and they didn't drink either. So it was something that you would want to emulate. I just want to read something that my mother wrote about him, and then I will be finished, and I can say goodbye and thank you all again for coming out. I can testify to the very special qualities that made him what he has become in the hearts of all Guyanese. He was above all a fighter, a man dedicated to win advances, not only for the people of his native land, but for all humanity. He was a man who never gave up. When the odds were high against him, in the face of almost hopeless situations, He never lost strength, never lost the will to achieve his goals. I can testify to his goodness, to his honesty and integrity, to his lack of concern for the material things of life, to his remarkable intellect, always seeking answers, always examining all aspects of a matter, always seeking the truth. He was constantly analyzing, looking at 2, 3, or 4 sides of a problem in order to arrive at the correct answer. And I'll leave it with one other quote that my father said. I would like to be remembered as a man who worked and fought for his country and his people. Thank you very much. Again, thank you all for coming out in remembering my father and my mother. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Jagan Grantier, for sharing those humbling stories with us. And so, as you all know, Comrade Cheddi met Janet Rosenberg, a student nurse, in the spring 1943, and they got married, and they had 2 kids, Nadira and Cheddi Jr., who in turn produced 5 grandchildren. And of course, we are also thankful to Miss Nadira and Cheddi Jr. for sharing their mom and dad with us. So Comrade Janet followed in her husband's footsteps and held the position of Prime Minister and President up until 1997, until the time of her passing. And so, in the words of Comrade Cheddi, he said, I am a son of sugar workers. I am a son of sugar workers who hasn't forgotten his roots. Many politicians like me have forgotten where they came from, but Jagan will never forget, and you can be sure of that. He said that in 1992. And so moving on in our program, I'd now like to invite to pay tribute the representative from the Guyana Agriculture Workers Union, Mr. Aslim Singh, to pay tributes.
Comrade Chair, all protocols being observed, the GAU is honored to have the opportunity to again pay tribute to a son of our soil, an outstanding freedom fighter, Comrade Cheddi Jagan. The very fact that we are paying tribute to him after he passed on over 2 decades ago is indicative of his many all-round contributions and his significant achievements in lifting the quality of life of our people and in putting our country on a path of growth and development. GAU recalls that Cheddi Jagan remained throughout his public life a consistent champion of the working people of Guyana. Following his return to Guyana from studies in the US, he quickly plowed into an activist life and associated it with trade unionists like Jocelyn Hubbard and Ashton Chase. Interestingly, it was Comrades Chase, Hubbard, Janet, and Cheddi who were core members in the formation of the Political Affairs Committee, PAC, which later grew to become the People's Progressive Party, PPP. The PAC, and later the PPP, in effect, meant that the struggles of the Guyanese people, especially for freedom, would be waged at a higher political level. Comrade Cheddi did not deviate from his firm groundings with the working people throughout his life. It is worthy to recall that the PPP secured a major electoral victory in 1953, and under its leadership, with Comrade Cheddi at its helm, Guyana began the journey to prosperity and progress, a journey, comrades, that continues today under the leadership of the President, Vice President, and other comrades. Comrade Cheddi's entry into the Legislative Council brought the working masses an ally at this important forum of the country. There, he took the opportunity to highlight the challenges faced by the working people in conditions of colonialism. In his work among the people, Comrade Cheddi placed special emphasis on education to lift their political and class awareness, and to let them appreciate the strength they possess to make the changes at their workplace and in the society for their overall betterment. He emphasized the importance of unity, seeing it as an important step towards the overall struggles for freedom, democracy, and a society based on humanitarian values. and on economic growth while seeking to develop our people's potential so they can contribute qualitatively in our continuous development. Today, when our world is gripped by various crises, Dr. Jagan's vision and achievements take on greater meaning. His ideas have not lost their relevance. In the challenging struggles before us, his teachings and examples should serve as a compass, pointing to the direction to take in the face of our challenges and demands of our days. The GAU pays homage to Comrade Chetty, who was our honorary president. We continue to cherish his memory and see him as a great and indomitable leader, whose core ideas are still largely applicable in our times. Let us, comrade, go forward in unity for a new day, a better day, a prosperous day, holding aloft the banner handed to us by Comrade Chetty Jagan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, comrade. And we'll now invite to pay tribute Comrade Ramkumar Siraj from the Rice Producers Association. Comrade Siraj is also the General Secretary of the RPA and an executive and central committee member of our party. So let's welcome to the stage Comrade Ramkumar Siraj to the podium, sir.
Thank you very much, Comrade Sarah. His Excellency, Comrade Irfan Ali, President of our country, former President and current General Secretary and Vice President, Comrade Bharat Jagdeo, Honorable Prime Minister Mark Phillips, rest of my colleagues on stage, ministers of the cabinet, former ministers of the cabinet, members of the executive, members of the Central Committee, Comrade Harry Nocta, who I think never failed to attend these functions. Comrades all, on behalf of the Guyana Rice Producers Association, I wish to state on the start that I am humble, privileged to be paying tribute to Comrade Chetty with you here as we celebrate his 105th birth anniversary and his 26th death anniversary. Comrade Chetty was, of course, a man way beyond his time. And he would have left us after a very short period he would have spent with us. And it is indeed unfortunate that a man who was beyond his time could have departed before his time. And many of you would not have known that Comrade Chetty was president of the Guyana Rice Producers Association in the 2 years 1952 and 1953. So whilst he served as an honorary president of GAU, he was the president of the Guyana Rice Producers Association. He was a well-rounded man, as we all know. He fought for political upliftment, economic prosperity, human rights, gender rights, religious freedoms, and all these things. And that is why year after year, we continue to come here to pay tribute to him and Comrade Janet Jagan. Comrade Chetty, in 1953, when he headed the first PPP elected government, was a short period, a couple of months only, but he served as Minister of Agriculture. Then the second elected PPP government, he served as Minister of Trade and Industry. And then the third elected government, that was in 1961 to 1964, whilst as Premier, he served as Minister of Development and Planning. So this gives you an idea how he was an all-rounded character. And it was during this period of 61 to 64, he made fundamental reform in the agriculture sector. A hallmark for him was security of tenure for farmers, small farmers. And I want to say it here also that although he has a soft spot or a bias for small farmers, he was not anti-big business or big farming enterprises. And I think Comrade Irfan Ali made a point, which I remember clearly some weeks ago at the Red House, when he said that Comrade Chetty would have spoken and promoted small businesses, but he was not anti-business. And those thinkings were reflected in the policy of his government. And I also recall that
he would have made fundamental changes in that 61-64 period at the level of the Guyana GRB at that time, Guyana Rice Board, where we give farmers a lot of rights over the industry. So comrades, today, as we are accelerating towards realizing that hitherto elusive dream of a one Guyana, I want us all to remember what the Jagan stand for. And that is the upliftment of our people, both economically, politically, and socially. And let us allow these principles to guide us. Once again, I fail to recognize the Honorable Deputy Speaker. Once again, please allow me to say thank you and for allowing me this opportunity to say these few words on behalf of the Guyana Rice Producers Association as we pay tribute to Comrade Cherry and also to Comrade Janet. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Siraj. The Women Progressive Organization is the women arm of our party, and so today I'd like to invite to pay tribute Comrade Sheila Virasamy, the General Secretary of the WPO, also here with us today.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. All protocol observed. Good afternoon, comrades and friends. It has indeed been a long time. COVID-19 kept us apart. But here we are today to pay homage and to celebrate the lives, legacies, and work of our beloved founders of the People's Progressive Party, Comrade Cherry and Comrade Janet Jagan. Today, I do not want to tell you about Janet Jagan's birth or Cherry Jagan's birth and death. I do not want to speak about their sacrifices nor their achievements. I want to share a few thoughts about what they have done for us as women in Guyana. Cherry and Janet Jagan created and left us the most prized gifts: the People's Progressive Party, the Progressive Youth Organization, and the Women's Progressive Organization. They gave us a family that received us with open arms, one that taught us how to be politicians. These organizations give us hope, it gave us faith, and it gave us courage. It allowed us to understand our worth as women, and it taught us how to be courageous and resilient. These iconic leaders were ordinary human beings who became extraordinary because they have selflessly given of themselves and taught us to be the same. Today, as we looked around us, we can feel and we can see the Jagan dreams of Guyana and of Guyanese coming alive right before our eyes. Comrade Cherry's call for national unity is being realized with His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali's call for one Guyana. Dr. Jagan's fight for free and fair elections and restoration of democracy was seen when our General Secretary, Comrade Bharat Jagdev, led us into battle by providing sterling leadership comparable to none. He exposed every attempt of the PNC in APNU AFC to steal the 2020 elections. And on the 2nd of August 2020, democracy was restored and Comrade Irfan Ali was sworn in as our president. And the PPP was returned to power. Freedom came alive and Guyanese would have breathed a sigh of relief. I am sure that all of you sitting here do not want to ever repeat that 5-year. Comrades, there must be no place in Guyana for racism and discrimination. 2020 reminded us that democracy is a fragile phenomenon. We cannot be complacent. We as women must be alert and be prepared to expose and fight against everyone who wants to divide our people. We must condemn them. Let us work hard with the PPP and go out there and do our work to win the upcoming local government elections. Let us keep the red flag flying. You, my courageous sisters, I salute you for the role you played in 2020. I salute the old stalwarts who walk alongside the Jagans and kept the PPP strong. I salute the present team of courageous, competent, and energetic leaders in the PPP who, under the stewardship of our GS, Comrade Bara Jagdeo, and our President, Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, are working diligently to fulfill the dreams of the Jagans by building a Guyana that we all dreamed of, one where all our people can live as one and where the working class of this country will live in dignity. Long live the legacy of Comrade Chetty and Comrade Janet Jagan. Long live the PPP. Long live the PYO. Long live the WPO. Let's build our one Guyana for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Sheila Veerasamy. And today, comrades, I am honored not just to be your sessional chair of today's proceeding, but also to speak on behalf of the Progressive Youth Organization, the PYO. The PYO, it is said to be Guyana's oldest youth organization, and it was founded by the late Dr. Chetty Jagan, which we're all here today to pay a tribute to. And so the PYO should be proud of the PYO, since right here among us we have leaders who would have come through the ranks of the Progressive Youth Organization, our president, our vice president, and the executive members of our party would have come through the PYO. And so the PYO was founded on several principles. The first one being, of course, activism, patriotism, volunteerism, which today we still upkeep as the youth arm of our party. And so we ask ourselves today, how can we as young people, as the PYO, pay tribute to our late president and father of the nation? How can we do that as young people? The answer is very simple, comrades. We as young people, we need to ensure that we rally ourselves, we get ourselves involved in activism, we get ourselves involved in volunteerism to ensure that we maintain our democracy, that we ensure that when we head to elections, that democracy prevails. And so I would like to today join, the PYO would like to join with the WPO in congratulating all of our comrades who would have stood with us in the dark period where our country, our democracy was under threat, and we'd like to salute our leaders, our volunteers, and to challenge young people to come out, to join the PYO, to rally ourselves, and to let us be a force to reckon with. I want to thank you all, and thank you all for coming out today as we pay tribute to our late leader, the father of the nation. And so in continuing in our program, comrades, we'd now like to invite someone very special who is here with us today. And in 1992, when the party went to elections, Comrade Chetty went to the elections. Yeah, so I'm very excited today, and I would have raced away with our program. And so let's just step back and let us welcome to the stage our brothers to do for us a fusion of drums. That's African and Indian. So please, drummers, let's come on stage. Thank you. Thank you very much, my brothers, for that wonderful fusion. And so back to our program. In 1992, when the party went to elections, Comrade Chedi went to the elections with an alliance called the Civic. And at that time, Comrade Sam Hines was the leader who then served as Prime Minister and later as President. And so today we have with us someone very special, and that person is Comrade Mark Phillips, who represents the civic component of our party as we continue to upkeep the founding principles of the late Comrade Chedi. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming to the podium Brigadier Retired Comrade Mark Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Your Excellency, President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, our General Secretary, always full of energy, always working, Dr. Bharat Jagdeo, members of the party on stage, former President and former General Secretary, Mr. Donald Ramatar, ministers of government, leaders, supporters, members of the PPP Civic. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I said it low so you could shout. Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, look, I am honored today. I have a script, but perhaps I may have to deviate from the script. I am honored today to be here at Babu Jan, and perhaps it's a secret, but I will share with you. This is the first time I'm here at Babu Jan. And I would blame it like my sister here, I blame it on COVID. All right? Better late than never. You know, I said I have a script, and if I should follow the script, it will go like this. I greet you all today, honored to be present at this important event as we reflect on the life and legacy of the late Dr. Chedi Bharat Jagan, a great leader, president, and founding father of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. You know what? I want to correct that first part and say father of the nation. And you know, that statement has caused some people to write long articles in the paper. But as a 17-year-old, I read the Weston trial for the first time. I read it again as a young officer in the GDF. I spent 36 years in the GDF. So I had to read on all the political personalities in Guyana, both in government and out of government, the opposition. So I read, as Mr. Dr. Hines mentioned recently, he wanted to invite me because I said I read every book on the history of Guyana. And who knows, someday I may take him up on the invitation when he changes his way, right? Because today, what we're doing today is honoring the legacy of who? Chedi and Janet Jagan, the father and the mother of the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, in preparing for my address today, among the things I did was to wake up early this morning and read the newspapers. And there are two articles in today's newspapers, and I took out two pieces from those articles. And one of the articles had a part which says, Life in 1950. The PPP comprised Guyanese from all walks of life, ethnically diverse, professionals, workers, business people, trade unionists, youth, women, and Cheddi Jagan appointed Forbes Burnham as chairman of the party. Ladies and gentlemen, when I look at the gathering today, 73 years after the formation of the PPP, is the same set of people in terms of diversity I am seeing before me. I am seeing Guyanese from all races. I am seeing Guyanese from all walks of life. I am seeing the young, the not so young, and those who don't want to be called old with us today. The youths are represented in large numbers today. The women are represented in large numbers today. And that is good for the legacy of Comrade Cheddi and Comrade Janet, because they were able in 1950 to mobilize people from all walks of life in the struggle for a better Guyana. And that legacy remains today. Our General Secretary, full of energy, and the Executive Committee, along with the Civic, continues to attract the attention, support of all the people of Guyana. At a time when we have more resources, more revenue than Comrade Cheddi had. But we are following the principles of Comrade Cheddi because he believed that democracy was important for Guyana to develop. As far as Comrade Cheddi concerned and Comrade Janet, the people must have an opportunity to select by popular vote the rulers of the country, the leaders of the country. And they stood for that. They struggled for that. We know the history. We know about the Cold War. We know about all the racial politics. But Comrade Cheddi and Comrade Janet never gave up. And if you want to call it 28 years of undemocratic rule, it was 28 years of struggle to ensure democracy come to Guyana. And with democracy, development of all the people of Guyana. So when we talk about democracy in Guyana, 1966, we had independence, where we changed from colonial rule, right? We became an independent country. I would like to argue that perhaps with the work of Comrade Cheddi and Comrade Janet, we should have been an independent country since sometime in 1962, like the other countries, the other major countries of the Caribbean. But the struggle started by the people who divided us, led to a delay in independence in Guyana. And the fact that they were in power through undemocratic rule for 28 years, we had a delay in democratic rule in Guyana. However, due to the struggle of our leaders, Comrade Cheddi and Comrade Janet Jagan, we had a return to democracy in 1992. And with that return to democracy in 1992 came massive development throughout Guyana for all the people of Guyana. And it was at a time when we did not have oil and gas as yet. You know, this morning I asked my wife, during which government the house that you grew up in North Rumville, Northeast Rumville, I think that's the area, right, was constructed? And she said it was during Dr. Cheddi government in the 1960s. So we had a housing program in the 1960s that addressed the needs of the working class and the poor throughout Guyana, in the rural areas and in the urban areas. That is a legacy of Comrade Chedi. Today, under our president, Dr. Irfan Ali, we continue the housing drive, which was restarted under the presidency of Dr. Bharat Jagan. That is a legacy of Comrade Chedi that we are maintaining in Guyana today. Let's have a drum roll for that. Comrades, we have a father of the nation who was committed to democratic governance. He was committed to building a Guyana based on equality, regardless of race, regardless of religion, or regardless of whichever part of Guyana you came from. And he was committed to improving the lives of all Guyanese, especially the working people of Guyana. Comrade Chedi Jagan, throughout his career, remained steadfast in his commitment to eliminating poverty throughout Guyana. He would be proud of the socioeconomic policies and interventions of our government, led today by Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, a government that in the face of a pandemic brought relief to all the people of Guyana, a government that continues to implement policies aimed at improving the lives and livelihood of all the people of Guyana, a government that has been using the resources, especially from oil and gas, in an accelerated development fashion for all the peoples of Guyana. Only yesterday, I led an outreach to Victoria, the forest village in Guyana. And you should be there to hear the people. The people are saying that we have a government today that is big on actions. More actions, less talk. That is the government in keeping with the legacy of Dr. Chedi Jagan. Dr. Jagan would have been proud of us had he been alive today. When he see his leaders, the inheritors of leadership position in his party, deployed throughout Guyana, listening to the people and designing and implementing projects and programs to alleviate the suffering of the people, to reduce poverty in our society, to bring equality to our people, better health, better education, better infrastructure. And here we're talking about not only in Georgetown and the other cities, but in every village of Guyana. Farm to market roads, those bridges that some may have considered insignificant, but is of importance to the people in the communities, the villages and the towns where they live. Better health facility. And you know what? I can go on and on. But ours is a commitment to ensuring that the legacy of Dr. Chedi Jagan and Janet Jagan live on in Guyana, and daily working towards ensuring that the people of Guyana benefit from whatever resources we have in an equitable manner. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my contribution, and I wish to say to you that I will continue to work in ensuring the legacy of Dr. Jagan is with us and benefit all the people of Guyana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Thank you very much, Comrade PM. And so for many of the younger comrades like myself who were born in 92, we only know of successive progressive PPPC government, well, except for the period between 2015 to 2020, where the PNC would have wreaked havoc on our country. And so in the words of Dr. Jagan, we must all remember the lessons of the past as a guide for the management of the present and the planning for the future. And so today I am delighted to invite a young and visionary leader who walked alongside Dr. Cheddi Jagan and he learned from the best. A humble, patient, and a kind leader who today remains alongside the people at the grassroots level. Comrade Irfan Ali rose through the ranks of the PYO as a young lad, then to Minister of Housing and Water and Tourism, where he massively transformed the sector. And Comrade Irfan has now today graduated to the highest office in Guyana, serving as president. A president toiling endlessly to unite and build a one Guyana for all of us. So join me in welcoming to the podium our president, your president, Dr. Irfan Ali.
Thank you. Thank you very much, very kindly. Our dear, respected Prime Minister Mark Phillips, our Vice President and General Secretary, members of the Cabinet, former President and General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party, Comrade Donald, members of the Jagan family, respected members of the People's Progressive Party, my respected elders, friends, Guyanese, all. Good afternoon. Comrades, I'm very pleased to be here this afternoon. I have spoken a few times on this very platform, but this is the first time I will be speaking on this platform as President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. And that opportunity is only because of you, the people. It is only because of your love, your dedication, your hard work, and your commitment to the People's Progressive Party Civic. And on behalf of the Cabinet of Guyana, on behalf of all of us, I take this opportunity in my first speech on this stage to thank all of you for your support and your confidence that you gave us in serving you. And our life is dedicated in service to you. You know, I want to remind all of Guyana, and I want to remind all of Guyana today, in memory of Dr. Jagan, Comrade Janet, and all those who fought alongside the brilliant leadership of these comrades. I want to remind all of you Guyanese today that we are all shareholders of the People's Progressive Party. Every Guyanese, you are all shareholders of the People's Progressive Party. And this party remains open to welcoming back home every single shareholder of the People's Progressive Party, because Guyana, the political transformation, economic and social justice came as a result of the formation of the first and oldest political party and system of Guyana, the People's Progressive Party, and we are all shareholders of this party. And the greatest gift we can give to Dr. Jagan is the commitment of our lives as directors, as managers, as leaders in this entity called the People's Progressive Party, to bring back home every single shareholder of the People's Progressive Party, and to do so in action, to do so in programs, and to do so in our own personal and collective commitment to the value system of the People's Progressive Party Civic. My dear friends, many persons urge reflection on occasions like these. I am very pleased this morning, before coming here like the Prime Minister, very randomly I look at myself in the mirror because it's a fearful view. But this morning I took a look in the mirror and I saw a few things in that mirror. A few things that I want us to reflect on, especially under the circumstances that some people who look in the mirror are reflecting on things that they have no moral authority or ethical authority to speak on. I see those who hounded Comrade Janet when she became president of Guyana, making her life miserably uncomfortable, denying her contribution to the development of Guyana. And I see them in that mirror today playing gods of truth and gods of dignity and honesty. I see those who condemn Comrade Cherry in his early struggles in the People's Progressive Party. I see those who made a mockery of him. I see those who plotted against him, even plotted against his life. I see those who took the life of Walter Rodney. I see those who inflicted hate, who inflicted racial division, who conspired to overthrow the People's Progressive Party in 133 days. I see their faces, I see their name, and I see their images. That is what I see. And today, I live in a society in which they burn themselves under the virtue of dignity, honesty, and truth. I see nothing but hypocrisy from them. I see nothing but selfishness, a selfish desire for power. But what I see also in that mirror is the beautiful faces of all Guyanese who stood tall and strong, who stood selflessly in ensuring that today we remain in a free and democratic society. And I see those values, and I see those strengths, and I see those honor, and I see that dignity. And in all of that, I see the love and respect for Dr. Jagan, because when we stand up for honesty and dignity, when we stand up for democracy, when we uphold the principles of freedom, we are upholding the legacy of Dr. Cherry Jagan. So let me say very clearly that we are not going to be branded by the same cane that inflicted the seamlessly deep wounds on this society we live in. But we have charted a course in which we are opening our branches of love to heal those wounds, to seal those wounds, and to create a fresh platform through which growth and development and progress and love and unity can come to us. But there are those who are so hell-bent on their ways that their only weapon is the weapon they use against Dr. Jagan. Their only weapon is the weapon they use against Comrade Janet. When she stood beside Guyana, and Nadira spoke about standing beside Dr. Jagan, but your mother did much more than that. She stood beside Guyana She left her life for comfort and stood beside Guyana, all of Guyana. She gave her life. She sacrificed. She went through pain and suffering, and she stood beside Guyana. And at the time when Guyana should have stood with her, there were some who said she was too white to stand with her. The very thing that she, Comrade Janet and Chetty fought against, the oppression of one people over the next, they used it. This very group used it. This very group that continues today to only weaponize this one asset that we have. The one great asset is our diversity as a people. It is not a negative. Our diversity is a great asset to us. But there are those who cannot help themselves but weaponizing this asset. I say, and the General Secretary is the one who speaks on behalf of the People's Progressive Party. But yes, today I say that no weapon formed in the clothing of racism will succeed once this People's Progressive Party is alive, and we don't intend to die. We will stay alive. We will disband, destroy, and completely wipe out the weapon of racism that continues to be used against the people of this country. And those who handle the weapon must understand that their days are numbered and their days are coming to an end, because that weapon is being destroyed globally, and that weapon will be buried here in Guyana. When I look into that mirror, I saw many more things. I saw today a party that is strong, a party that has created many legends, men and women. I see today a party, and every political system delivers leaders throughout its history. Today we must be proud of our General Secretary, who is leading the People's Progressive Party. And he's a product of the People's Progressive Party. But Comrade Chetty taught us, you know, sometimes I listen and I get upset because Comrade Chetty lived for the working class. But he did not live to see the working class remain working class or remain in poverty. He lived to uplift them out of poverty. Not for us to cry every day, we're fighting for the working class. What are we fighting for the working class for? To uplift them, to uproot poverty, to remove them from poverty, to give them human dignity, to give them equal opportunity. And that is what the People's Progressive Party Civic continues to do. So the more persons in the working class who can graduate up, it is paying greater respect to the legacy of Dr. Chetty Jagan. My friends, I want to pause here and recognize all those who worked along Comrade Chetty Jagan. Because no ship can safely sail without its crew. From the inception of the PSC to him coming back into government in 1992, all the ministers and all those who served alongside him, I ask you to give them a resounding round of applause for the support they would have given him. Today, I count myself very fortunate to be leading a team of highly motivated individuals. and to have in that team our General Secretary and former President, and to have a partner as Prime Minister that I would say is a significant contributor to the development of our political system in our country today. Comrade Mark Phillips. Please give them a big round of applause. So, my dear friends, as I looked into that mirror, I saw before oil, when Dr. Jagan came back to government, and when we left government in 2014, I saw in that mirror minimum wage in this country increase by 1,577%. That is the legacy of Dr. Jagan and the People's Progressive Party. When I looked into that mirror, I saw between 1993 and 1995 minimum wages increasing by 100%. When I look into that mirror between 1991 and 2014, I saw our external debt reducing by 50%. When I looked into that mirror between 1991 and 2014, I saw our debt to GDP ratio moving from 677% to 34%. That is the legacy that we celebrate. That is the legacy. When I look into that mirror, I see infant mortality for every 1,000 babies that were born between 1991 and 2014, reducing by 47%. These are records that is publicly available. Why the doomsayers don't write about this? Why do they avoid these facts? Because they only have one intention, and that is political power by any cause. I see in that mirror number of doctors for every 10,000 people in Guyana between 1991 and 2014, increasing by 600%. 600%. Come and give yourself a round of applause. This is your record. This is the record of all those who continuously support the People's Progressive Party Civic, and you must be proud of this record. When I look into that mirror, I see nurses for every 10,000 population increase by 400% by the time we left in 2014. When I look into that mirror, I see education as a share of the national budget moving from less than 2% to 15%. The gains that we are making is not by accident. It is by careful planning and meaningful policies. I see in that mirror a health system where resources in the national budget increase from less than 3% to more than 11%. That is what I see in the period the People's Progressive Party Civic was in government between 1991 to 2014. And I see many other things. And I feel many other things. And I want to tell you what I see as the year progresses. I saw 2015 and 2019 appearing before me. The years that the PPP was out of government. And the mirror was speaking to me. And the mirror said, between 2015 and 2019, I saw sugar production declining by $21 billion. These guys closed the sugar estates, and today they have the audacity to sit in a hotel and to write banners saying, give more to the sugar workers, when they destroyed completely in less than 5 years the sugar estate. The Mirror said to me, where is the conscience of these hypocrites? And then I said to the Mirror, they're hypocrites. They don't have conscience. I was having a very reflective conversation in the Mirror. And of course, I had to avoid paying attention to myself because the Mirror would have cracked. My dear friends, the Mirror continued to speak to me. And the Mirror said that in 2015 to 2019, forestry declined by $31 billion. Bauxite declined by $9 billion. The country lost $283 million in foreign currency earning in those 5 years. And then the Mirror said to me, that was not the only damage they inflicted on the backs of the Guyanese. The Mirror reminded me that in this 5 years, these very people introduced more than 200 new taxes on the people of this country. And they have the audacity to say, remove VAT. When they inflicted more than 200 plus taxes on the backs of the people of this country. VAT revenue in those years increased by 43%. They were hunting you down. They were hunting everyone down. They were even hunting the baji in the bed in the backyard. You forget they were hunting the shallot. They were hunting private consumption. And I will spend 1 second telling you what is this. Private consumption in those 5 years reduced by $77 billion. What that means is that people did not have money to spend. That is why shops were closing. Markets were closing. $77 billion that was available was no longer available in these 5 years to be spent, because like vampire, they were sucking the sap out of the people of our country. This is the truth. This is the unavoidable truth that they don't want to speak about. But in celebrating Dr. Cheddi Jagan, we have to celebrate the progress and development of the party, of this party, and what it has brought on the people of our country. And in understanding how important the contribution is, we have to understand the infliction on the people of Guyana when the People's Progressive Party was out of office. We cannot divorce Dr. Jagan from the PPP, and we cannot divorce the PPP from Dr. Jagan. That is why the policies we pursue must be reflective of the core values and principles. Go back to the manifesto of 1992. It spoke about food security, universal education, health, public infrastructure, investment in human capital. And that is what this government continues to do every single day. Doing it and delivering is living the legacy of Dr. Cheddi Jagan. Doing it is living the legacy of Dr. Cheddi Jagan. Let me be very clear on this matter. When we deliver the uniform grant and transportation grant to the children so they can have an education, by the way, that was there before 2014, but taken away during that 5 years. It was this government that restored it. We are delivering on the legacy of Dr. Cheddi Jagan. When we deliver on the school feeding program, we are delivering on the legacy of Dr. Jagan. When we deliver the jobs to help the most vulnerable in our society, we are delivering on the legacy of Dr. Jagan. When the party can produce a champion of the earth, a hero in the environment, and a man that is respected globally, we are delivering on the legacy of Dr. Cheddi Jagan. When the party in government can take the leadership on food security in the Caribbean, we are delivering on the legacy of Dr. Cheddi Jagan. When we are building a healthcare system to deliver world-class healthcare, we are delivering on the legacy of Dr. Cheddi Jagan. This is what we do. This is what your party do. When we uplift the lives of women and children, when we help the vulnerable, the poor, when we help businesses to grow, when we help businesses to expand, when we help the private sector to become prosperous, we are delivering on the legacy of Dr. Cheddi Jagan. Because a private sector that is dead is an economy that is dead. A private sector that cannot produce and grow is an economy that is static and backward. And we do not intend to develop a country with a dead or static private sector. We must develop the private sector to help the ordinary people of our country. My dear friends, the Mirror said to me that in those 5 years, non-performing loan increased by 100%. That is people who could not afford to repay their loans in those 5 years. And guess what? The Mirror then said to me that the bowling changed again. And in 2020, with the love of the people, the People's Progressive Party Civic was returned to government. And the Mirror said to me that in 1 month, upon returning to government, the PPP removed the 200 plus taxes that was inflicted on the people of this country and delivered back in the pockets of the people $31.4 billion or $180,000 for every family in Guyana. That is what we did. The Mirror said to me, we restored hope for the sugar workers. We restored hope for the communities across the country. We no longer said that rice is private business. And most of all, the Mirror said, glory be to the naysayers, for once again they have found their voices that they lost 5 years ago. And they lost that voice not because they were dead, but because they were afraid even to voice it. They were afraid of the consequences of speaking out and speaking up. The only entity that continuously and consistently held its voice for the oppressed and the disadvantaged was the People's Progressive Party. Today, the voices of those who stayed silent has arisen once more. And we say we are happy because we are the defenders of democracy. We are the builders of democracy. We are the molders of a free society. And this is what democracy and freedom brings. When you're not afraid anymore to speak. And don't take that lightly. Do not take that lightly. My dear friends, I saw a banner that the Vice President sent to me that said, all are not involved in the One Guyana, the APNU AFC banner. Let me explain something to you. For these people, One Guyana would have meant being allowed to steal the elections and rig the elections and get to office and get to power through rigging and stealing and derailing democracy. If they were allowed in 2020 to have their way in stealing and rigging and destroying democracy, that would have been One Guyana for them. Because that is all they're interested in. The power. But for us, one democracy is about service. One democracy is about, One Guyana is about service. One Guyana is about equity. One Guyana is about delivering results. One Guyana is to destroy every single drop of racism that exists in our society. One Guyana is about being responsible. One Guyana is about being responsive. One Guyana is about building a society that stands strong on principles and values. And believe you me, this People's Progressive Party civic government will and must achieve One Guyana in the interests of all the people of our country. I would not leave this stage without publicly recognizing and acknowledging the strong leadership of our General Secretary, Dr. Barry Jagdeo. We are a stronger party today because of his leadership. I spent every single day without exception, whether it's holiday or Sunday, for 5 years alongside him in opposition. I saw his dedication. I saw his commitment. I saw his selflessness and determination. But most of all, I saw a compassion and a strength of character and a belief in the party of Dr. Jagan second to none. He believes strongly in you, the members and supporters of the People's Progressive Party. He believes strongly in the will of the Guyanese people to overcome challenges. And I want to publicly recognize his sterling and strong leadership that led us from opposition back into government today. And I ask you to applaud him. And yes, we can stand and applaud him and the leadership of the People's Progressive Party. Thank you very much. Recognizing most of all that in acknowledging the leadership of the PPP, we are celebrating the life of Dr. Jagan. Because I do not believe Dr. Jagan would have ever wanted us to have a party that is visionless and leaderless. I don't believe for one moment that Dr. Jagan would have wanted us to be in opposition for the rest of our life. I don't believe for one moment, I do not believe that Dr. Jagan would have wanted us to walk away from the struggle for democracy. This is testimony to the fact that we are living the teachings and principle and life struggle of Dr. Cheddi Jagan, and give yourself a round of applause. I end finally by saying, and I'm surprised that I have all of this energy even fasting. I end, Comrade General Secretary, leaders of the PPP, the family of Comrade Cheddi, all Guyanese, by saying one thing to you. No organization can remain static and survive. Organizations that are successful are organizations that continuously reinvent themselves, are organizations that find ways to stay relevant, are organizations in which the leadership remains applicable to the circumstances. But organizations that are successful are those that remain strong in the founding principles and values that built them. And make no mistake, as we navigate the challenges of the future, as we reinvent ourselves, we will never stray away from the founding principles and values of the People's Progressive Party Civic. I thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Comrade President. The Jagan's legacy will be alive for many generations to come because the PPPC continues to walk in the path of his founding principles and values. It gives me great pleasure to welcome our next speaker, a gentleman whom Dr. Jagan placed great trust in. This gentleman served as the Minister of Finance under Comrade Cheddi, and he succeeded Mrs. Jagan after she passed away in 1997. Our General Secretary served for 12 years as President, and he's currently the General Secretary of our party, who has led our party through the struggle when the dark forces attempted to steal our country and our democracy. Comrades, let us welcome to the podium our General Secretary, Dr. Barra Jagdeo.
Thank you. Thank you. Colleagues, friends, members of our party, may I, on behalf of the People's Progressive Party, thank all of you for being here today. It is the tradition that when we come here, we pay tribute to the two most important characters in the formation of the People's Progressive Party and its subsequent developments. But when we are here, we also have an opportunity to report to you on the struggles that the party is waging, the state of the party, and the policy making in our government. And so today, I want to speak about some of these issues so you can see the clarity of the vision of the PPP Civic and how it's founded deeply. It's entrenched on the principles established with the foundation or the formation of our party. So the first thing I want to talk about today, and I'm doing this because I want, by the time we leave here, that this country and the media and the international community can only form one conclusion about this party, that it is the only multiracial party in this country. We have had, in the past several months, we've had a deluge of criticisms by the PNC and the AFC. We recognize that they have nothing else to be proud of because they have a history of rigging elections. They have a history of policies that have led this country to ruin. So they have nothing positive to report on. And that the only tool available to them is to divide our people. And it has been a campaign recently because they've seen how potent this campaign is. It has kept our people apart for many, many decades in our history. And in spite of the progressive policies of our party from its formation, we've been unable to realize the true extent of bringing people together. So they're hoping that that policy making or the campaign that they're waging would have the same results now. So let us leave this with the naysayers. The first thing, as Mark Phillips said, if you look around here, no other political party in this country can put together a gathering of this nature that is multiracial. I've seen some of the small political parties say that they're multi-ethnic and they have less support totally than the Afro-Guyanese that we have who are members of this party. Their total membership is less than Afro-Guyanese in this party. This party openly acknowledged in opposition that we had to do more to engage Afro-Guyanese and to bring them into the party. The party is strong in Indo-Guyanese representation. It has grown strong in Amerindian representation. But we have historically failed to bring large numbers of Afro-Guyanese into the party for one simple reason. It's the distortion, the rumors of the messages, not because of the leadership of Cheddi Jagan. Cheddi Jagan, as you can see from his writing and the practices of his policies, wanted struggle every single day to bring people together. But you know how it worked, that we live in ethnic enclaves, and the rumor machinery in these enclaves have been busy, and APNU has used those rumor machinery to distort what the PPP stands for. They say the PPP is a racist party, but our history, our practices, our policies, our philosophy all speak differently. And today, we are fighting this in every single community. And it has resonance now because when they try to distort the message in the villages, the Afro-Guyanese villages and other communities across the country, they're confronted with a narrative that is very different on the ground because they don't know that many people in these villages, almost every one of these villages, we now have a party group or a party cell being formed. So even just recently, we had an example at one of the offices, government offices, that you had a bunch of staff talking about racism in the PPP. And they were repeating the APNU propaganda. And what happened? They were telling this to some of our Afro-Guyanese comrades who are members of the party. There is an assumption that if you're Afro-Guyanese, you can't be PPP. And that's why I'm so proud of the large numbers of people who have seen the light now and are coming to this party. They have had 5 years of APNU. They've seen the lies of APNU, and they're coming to this party, and this party will grow from strength to strength. Contrast this with the PNC. The PNC leadership, they've had Norton for 1 year now. He has discharged 2 Indo-Guyanese general secretaries and a treasurer in that period. We saw David Hines recently. He revealed the purpose of Nagamotu and Ramjatan. He said they were only included because they were supposed to bring a few Indian votes over to the coalition. That's their only purpose in the party, not to promote a multi-ethnic and to respect people of every race and every faith as this party does, and to embrace them and include them. They saw them as outsiders. That party, that philosophy, the racism of the PNC will lead to their demise. And now they're rapidly dying as an organization. And the next elections, not just the local government one, we will prove that definitively, the one in 2025. So when I hear everyone talk about inclusivity, just recently, they've been trying in the international community to go and badmouth us, to say, oh, this is a racist government. And they were told, well, if you look at the judiciary, it's balanced in this country. You have people of every race in the judiciary. In the legislature, it reflects the nature of Guyana. And in the executive of our party, the cabinet, it looks like Guyana too. So what are you talking about? Recently, the State Department report pointed out that in spite of all these complaints, that this government has people of all races in senior leadership positions across the government of Guyana. And that is the nature of our party. So when the media writes about this party or the international community, I want them to look at this gathering here. I want them to challenge any other party to put together a gathering of this nature here today, where people came voluntarily because they're associated with the policies of this party. That's the first point I wanted to make. And now the second point. Now, if a party cannot defend its legacy, if a party doesn't speak up about what it stands for, then that party could never have longevity in politics. It will never be as part of the political leadership of a country for an extended period. And trust me when I say that the assault, because somehow in the past, we let the narrative from the other side overpowered us, and it led to our demise in 2015. In 2015, they were controlling the narrative. They used social media to distort everything that this party stood for. They even denigrated and changed our track record of progress. They spoke about corruption as a massive campaign tool. And we did not do enough in 2015 to fight back against that narrative, and it led to our demise. So today, when we fight the naysayers, many people think, oh, we're intolerant of criticism. We're not intolerant of criticism. We don't hate NGOs. We are just fighting to defend our records. And we are not political eunuchs. We will fight tooth and nail every single day to speak about the record and the achievements of this party. And if we don't do it, if all of you who are here don't set up a Facebook page or an Instagram page or something else and join that fight, they will succeed again. They will succeed because they have some in the media who support this narrative. They will never question an organization like the Transparency International of Guyana that sent a report in 2019 to the International Transparency Organization. And in that report, they said, APNU stopped a corrupt party in meter deal, when the fact was that APNU instituted the corrupt parking meter deal. They said that APNU published all the oil contracts, and you know we had to fight for that to happen. And they said that APNU resuscitated the Integrity Commission, when we know that was a lie. In fact, from the beginning, from 2000 to 2020, when APNU left office, only 3 years government officials did not submit their statements to the Integrity Commission, and those 3 years were under APNU. So you can easily distort that. We exposed this report. Not a person from the media has picked that up. We called on them to resign or make a public statement because this was a blatant lie. You don't hear them talk about this. But when we criticize it, they say, oh, Irfaan Ali government is intolerant of criticism. They want us to stay quiet so they can distort our track record again. Not again. It's not going to happen. And I want all of you here today to commit to join in that fight. We have two battles to fight against the racism. We have to fight it tooth and nail and point out which is the racist party in Guyana and which is the party that's working for all the people of our country. And secondly, you have to join the fight to point out about these things. GHRA, a one-man organization, under the entire APNU, they couldn't see. He didn't know that social media existed. In September of 2020, then they created a website for social media so the GRA can start posting on the social media. And we treat them in the public domain as though they have credibility. The problem, every day they've rolled out a whole new set of these people. The Anand Gulsaran, who was part of the AFC coalition, could not say a word about the abuse of public accounts and everything else, the corruption in the 5 years. Suddenly we are approaching elections again. They rolled him out as a fossil. They even rolled out Hamilton Green a couple days ago to say that Cheddi Jagan is not the father of nation. The nation Burnham is. I asked them one question. How is it that a sitting prime minister was on the payroll of the CIA for 4 years after independence? Silence. Silence. So the second thing we are leaving here with today is that you have to struggle, you have to fight if you want to remain in power. In spite of all the positive things we do in this country, all the changes we're bringing to the people of this country, one man who has a Facebook page can distort that, and we have a lot of gullible people in this country. We have a group that's called themselves the Oil and Gas Party now. All these new parties are being formed, and saying that, I welcome Mr. Schuman here from the party, and I'm happy to see you in the red. It's very pleasing to see you in the red. That's what the PPP is, the umbrella party for everyone. People see the longevity of our ideas. So the third thing I want to talk about, the president touched on it. The president mentioned about the changes. So long before oil and gas, we had transformed this country. We've taken it from a bankruptcy and we moved it to the most viable and fastest growing economy in this region before oil and gas. And we made a commitment that the same fiscal discipline that we had to display in bringing a bankrupt country back to viability, the same fiscal discipline will characterize all of our dealings with the oil and gas sector. Today, we hear a lot of people talking about the framework. In 2.5 short years, we have put in place one and are putting in place one of the most modern frameworks to manage the industry anywhere in the world. They talk about corruption in oil and gas. In opposition, we said we wanted every Guyanese to know how much money we collect from the oil and gas companies every year. And the reason we did this is because you remember Winston Jordan and the cabinet in the past hid $18 million signing bonus. They didn't tell this country a year and a half after receiving the money, they didn't say a word. They didn't place it into the consolidated fund, nor did they put it in the central bank balance sheet. So for all purposes, it was outside of the audit purview of the Auditor General. We criticized it, we exposed it. When we pressured Jordan, he said, oh, he thought it was a gift. You remember that? He said that he thought it was a gift. The 18 million signing bonus was a gift to the PNC. It was supposed to be paid into the consolidated fund. And we made it clear that no Minister of Finance will have those powers under the PPP. The first thing we did is that we amended the law to ensure that every receipt, big or small, from the oil and gas sector will be published in the official gazette, and Parliament will be notified within 3 months. And if the Minister of Finance fails to do that, there is a 10 years jail penalty attached to it. Not that Ashney will have that, because I know Ashney is publishing as soon as they get a receipt, he publishes it. So that every citizen of this country will now know how much money we've collected. All they have to do, they have to buy the official gazette and add down every year, and they will see that. No country in the world has that law, a law as strong as that to ensure transparency. Look at the corruption under APNU. So contrast this behavior. Contrast this. We have made changes to local content legislation. The same legislation, something that Comrade Chetty was always concerned about, that we needed foreign capital to expand this country. But are Guyanese going to get a fair share of the proceeds? We've already amended the fiscal terms of the PSA. We're coming up with a new PSA, so any new development now, the royalty rate goes from 2% to 10%. And the companies have to start paying taxes here, unlike the agreement signed by APNU. So we have made that change. But more importantly, we've passed a local content law that was passed by the PPP that has brought nearly $700 million of business and business opportunities to Guyanese, because we believe that this industry must work for our people too, not the foreigners alone. We've traveled around the world. We've seen in these countries how the foreigners, people of one color, live in ethnic enclaves. We said not in Guyana. The law now says that these foreign companies can only rent dwelling places from Guyanese, so that Guyanese now have an opportunity to supply them with this too. They can only rent transportation. And you know, this is an opposition. We didn't come in government just like that. We went to the Marriott one day, I think it was Irfan and I, and there's a Hertz sign there. They were bringing already an American company to rent taxi services. So we changed the law, and now you can only rent from the Guyanese people because it comes out of the sense of where we have come from. We need foreign capital to develop these industries. We can't put together $30 billion to build these FPSOs. We don't have that money, but we have to make sure that the people in this industry, that they leave a fair share of the proceeds to Guyanese. Right here at Port Morant, there's going to be a massive facility for training Guyanese for the industry, a massive facility. It's a $120 million US facility for training people to work in this industry. This is what the PPP stands for. As Irfan Ali pointed out, President Ali pointed out, that when you cross the bridge now, I come here before in opposition, and this place, Berbice, was dying. We're in Berbice here, where Cheddi Jagan comes from. And they had a deliberate policy of killing this region. They removed 7,000 sugar workers. They knew that these people didn't have a social safety net. Many of them went from job to poverty, can't feed their children, couldn't send the kids to school. We saw the nutrition level of people in this country and this county and the sugar belt took a steep dive down. We saw people, you know, people are proud. And we managed as a party to put together some hampers for people. And they don't want to come out and collect it because they got a sense of pride, but they needed it in that period. And some of our people used to take a lot of pictures and posted it. And we said as a party, stop doing that. Let's just help people on the ground to get over the 5 years so we can return and change people's lives again. And that is what we're doing here. So they shut down the sugar industry, sold out the equipment at Wales, and we have managed in this county to rehire half of the people that they laid off. We've put together nearly 4,000 persons are working on part-time jobs now, so that in the short term, in this region alone, we can start boosting the welfare of the region and the economy of the region. But what I'm saying here is not happening only in this region. Right across the country, people have seen the change. We didn't spend the last 2.5 years just playing around. The last 2.5 years have been spent on crafting a plan to deal with the future welfare and accomplish the vision as laid out by President Ali and the party. That is what we have been doing, from hospitals to highways to schools to employment creation programs to creating the fiscal framework, reducing taxes, to direct help in the industries, massive help into the agricultural sector to create a diversified economy, returning welfare to our people. The pensioners got back their water subsidy. The children got back the money that APNU stole from them. They stole the $10,000 from our children, and not PPP children alone, all the children in this country. And by 2025, each of those kids would have, each of those children would have $50,000 at least per annum. That was a commitment. The pensioners, by that period, in 5 years, will not see the erosion of their pension or having to pay more water bill. The pension will double in the 5 years. You would have free university education in 5 years. We've delivered on the 20,000 scholarships. Already about 15,000 of those that we promised have been delivered. We've been spending time on delivering in the last 2.5 years. And because of that, we may not have been able to thank all of you the way we wish, because we had COVID too. And today, I want to say to many of you, I see the faces here who were part of that campaign. I remember in 2015 when we lost the elections, many people were inconsolable. You couldn't talk to them. They were crying. They said, we have to pack up and leave. And I think they instinctively knew that APNU would return to its past, that APNU would return to an unsustainable economic philosophy, not create wealth, not expand the productive industries as they prove, but they quickly increased the taxes on machinery and equipment, had an impact on mining and forestry. Production fell. They were just collecting, as the president said, collecting taxes and past taxes and spending. And people instinctively knew that there would be no future with APNU. Oil money or no oil money, because they have a flawed economic philosophy. Secondly, they knew that they will return to the racist policies. But let me tell you something about the racist policies. It's not Afro-Guyanese don't necessarily benefit from the racist policies of the PNC. In the period when the PNC was in office, after Burnham died, if you look at the land policy of the PNC, how many ordinary Afro-Guyanese had a plot of land? None of them. Not Afro-Guyanese, not Indo-Guyanese, not Amerindians, not anybody, until the PPP returned and started a housing program that led to one of the biggest dynamisms in the country. In Amelia's ward, in Linden, in Block 22, all of these are new housing schemes we started all across Guyana. So ordinary Afro-Guyanese have never been the beneficiaries of the PNC's racist philosophy. They're racist and elitist. So when the people from Linden, guess who got the land in Linden? They gave Lowenfield, who was the chief elections officer, just before the elections, 200 acres. 200 acres of prime land that you could develop 1,000 house lots on. But an ordinary person in Linden couldn't get a single house lot. And then they gave the Figueras, the MP and his brother, after the elections, they transferred lands to them in sizable quantities, all the PNC bigwigs. If you were Afro-Guyanese and Linden and you supported PNC, but you're poor, you can't get help from them. And your best bet is the People's Progressive Party. Your best bet, because we work for all the people in this country. So people knew instinctively that they will get back to that. And the reason why in 2015 many were so depressed is they knew that they said to me, we will never have another free and fair election in this country, because that's the nature of the PNC. If you look at Norton was in the heart of the rigging machinery, and I'm so pleased to see you here, Mr. Ferrier, who's related to Mr. Norton too. But he is here and he has seen the light in the People's Progressive Party. And he may be able to tell you a few more stories. But they knew that. And the PNC really proved them right that the 5 years, as soon as they got back in office, they were planning to rig the elections again. And the rigging was very sophisticated. So we had to throw them off track. It started with them unilaterally appointing a head of GCOM, contrary to what is in the Constitution and what was practiced for 25 years. And none of those civil society organizations were on the streets with us protesting this. In fact, they were being coddled by the APNU. GHRA was getting business. They were placed on commissions. They were complicit. They were in bed with the PNC. Although that was the biggest threat to our freedom by the unilateral appointment. And we had to fight that. The no confidence motion was another issue where their refusal to hold elections, and we fought through that too. And even after that, they refused to hold the elections, and through street protests and international pressure, led by the PPP, we managed to get them to come to the table. And let me say to you, they spent nearly $420 billion. They had the full support of the media. They had elements of the police and army working with them. They bullied people all around the country, and we beat them. We beat them with all of that stacked on their side. What do you think will happen now that we're moving forward in 2025? What do you think? So when they talk about this, and it shows, you know why we won? Because we kept faith with the people. And then a lot of those people who strayed from the PPP because they were seduced by Ramjatan and Nagamotu and all of the others, the sugar workers with the 20% promise and the rice farmers and all of them. They then recognized the true nature of the PNC. Many young people suddenly saw a party that was increasing taxes and had no future for them. People were losing jobs in droves. And a lot of the country woke up to the realization that what we had before was what we need again. And because of that, and because of the work of many of you here today, and Irfan Ali, I don't want it to sound like a mutual admiration club, but Irfan Ali led from the front too in many of those struggles, worked very hard. He's not a lazy politician. We got a lot of lazy politicians think they can come out and make a statement once in a while. He works very hard. And he's lost a lot of weight as a result of this work too. So, but not everybody who lose weight does work hard, you know. Right? So I want to thank all of you. I did not get that opportunity to in such a large gathering because we're struggling with COVID and we had to reboot the economy. We had to keep things going. We couldn't just sit down and admire because people needed help. People needed help. We came to Berbice in mid-2022. All the roads were in a state of disaster here. And in that period, we've already had over 300 roads in just from mid-2022 to now done in Berbice. The plans for the country are all laid bare now, and we have already started implementing them. So now, that's why today, we must express gratitude to people for the work, the struggles that they pursued. And so when we talk about Cheddi Jagan, and when we talk, the reason every year people can still come here is, why is it? You've had many leaders who have come and gone, and people don't pay much tribute to them. And it is because of what they stood for. As many who spoke before me, they were always, their whole lives were for positive change in Guyana. I can't trace the periods of the positive change because it will take too long. But it started from the political consciousness being awoken in this country. People don't understand how important a task this is. And the People's Progressive Party, the first party to be formed in this country, created a national awareness and organized the struggle for freedom in this country. You can't replace that. You could come after it, but you can't replace it. And it is that political consciousness that led to the fight for independence. The fact that independence was not given to Guyana under the PPP is well documented, and the reasons why, because they did not want Cheddi Jagan to come into power. He was too independent-minded and not focused on the isms too much, but on the development of the country and his people. And many of the policies that he put in place, even in the period of limited self-government, those policies were designed to transfer to wealth and to improve the lives of working people. The planter class that dominated the country was not happy about that. And then if you come through the long period of positive changes, he never gave up on the struggle to bring freedom to the country in spite of the hardships. And then when he became president, again, those struggles. And I saw that firsthand. I saw the nimbleness of his intellect that Nadira spoke about, the nimbleness of his intellect, his ability to move away from this doctrinaire view that things can only be done one way. And sometimes people who are static in their thinking, they can't understand that a country has to be, and a party, they have to be dynamic. If they're dynamic, they will survive. They would have relevance to the era in which you operate in. So we can't transpose 1970 ideas in an economy that is structured differently, but we can follow the guiding principle. You cannot transport. Today, in the past, somebody said, oh, in that period we didn't have cars and stuff. Today, everybody almost have a car. When I was growing up, you had to wait every half an hour for a car to pass the road. Now, a low income, a young professional home that the government transfers to people and sell to people who are in their 20s is better than any housing stock that you had in the 70s. It's a better quality home because times have changed and the country has to change too. Even walking in a nimble fashion. And you recall what Cheddi Jagan said when we came into office and we had the IMF program, and many people were saying Cheddi Jagan will repudiate the IMF program. We ended up working our way out of the IMF program, but he didn't. He said we have to walk within the raindrops. So we have to be careful about policy making. So we can't go after the craziness in this oil and gas party that Glenn Lal and the others want to form. The madness, the TikTok kind of approach. This is not the political party to do that. It's a serious party, a party that has a history to uphold, a history of struggle, a guiding philosophy. We can't drift with the wind. And that is what sometimes people don't understand. Everyone who makes a post on Instagram now, on Facebook, think that every single day you have to change your policy. If that happens, you drift in the wind, it will not help the people in the long run. We have to be stable, progressive. We have to make sure that we're building, accumulating wealth for ordinary people and for the country every single day in a sustained fashion. That is the principle that constantly guides us in this party. And sustainability is one thing that you would find in Cheddi Jagan's writing, all of them. So there's big shift on moving away from things that don't matter. APNU spent $1 billion more on renting buildings for government, $600 million to buy vehicles for the president and the others. Mr. Granger still drives the most expensive car that the country ever bought in its history. He still drives it now as a former president. He has it. The most expensive. They spent a lot of money on things that did not matter to people. But where is our money going now? Since we got into office, we have decided we're building 12 new hospitals starting this year. These hospitals, some of them are up to European standards because healthcare is important for us. You've seen a resurgence of the housing program. In all the years, they said, the 5 years, they said they gave out 7,000 house lots. It's more like 2,000 in 5 years. We have said 50,000 house lots in the 5 years, and we are on track to deliver that. When we were hit with the unprecedented cost of living increases that because of COVID that led to protests around the world, we didn't sit on our hands. We started saying, how can we help people? How can we help people? We removed taxes. We gave grants to different communities. We helped the farmers. We helped the farmers, the fishermen. We help the disabled in our society. We gave the hinterland people got a grant, all to overcome that. We did not increase the price of electricity and water, although the price was set when oil prices were $28 a barrel. It went to $120 per barrel, and we did not change the price for electricity or water. We subsidized it through the last 2.5 years to keep the prices there so that it would not affect cost of living. Many countries, look at our neighboring Suriname, have had protests because of these things, and it comes out because of this philosophy, the clearing philosophy of the party. That is why we've addressed this, and it's a struggle every single day. And today, we need more gratitude and understanding, not gratitude to the Jagdeo or Irfan Ali, but to the party for what we have done to rescue this country. That means all of you, what you have done, and the continuing policies to change the lives of people. What do I have in mind? We go to the Essequibo Coast. Yeah, President Ali mentioned, Granger told them after they promised $8,000 a bag for paddy when they were campaigning in 2015, Granger met with the farmers and said, private industry, no help to you. They increased the taxes on fertilizer, pesticides, almost everything. Increased drainage and irrigation charges. On a tractor combined, they put a 14% VAT. No help to the industry. We came in office, we changed all of this. When the fertilizer prices jumped up because of an increase in the fuel, crude oil, from which fertilizer is made, we decided to give some free fertilizer. So we go on the Essequibo Coast recently, and I saw the Minister of Agriculture going there, and then a few, maybe about 6 or 7 rice farmers. None of them, when I look at the picture, were with us. They were all with the AFC or some other group saying, oh, PPP didn't do anything for rice industry since we got back in office. The rice industry would have died had it not been for the PPP's return to office. But you know, that didn't bother me because we can fight off these few people. We can fight them off. They'll come, no matter what you do, they're going to be negative. You can bring everything. God could come down here on earth and give them manna, and they will still be criticizing him. So nothing will change. But you know what bothered me? Is that in that gathering, you had supporters of this party, 500 of them, and they stayed silent. If your silence, through your silence, you allow the naysayers to dominate and to create a wrong impression of the party, then you're going to suffer in the long run. They have to stand up and say that this is the party that, when we had flooding, gave us $8 billion in assistance. They should stand up and say that. That is why throughout the country, it should happen with the sugar workers too. I saw one man said, a little protest out there. APNU sent them, oh, you're not helping the sugar industry. Imagine APNU now saying we're not helping the sugar industry. I've heard this from some sugar workers too. If the PPP had now returned to office, there would have been no sugar industry. And you can go across, ask the miners. You ask the miners about mining, and they will tell you now, small and large miners, that the taxes burden that we remove from the sector has allowed it to survive. And so I'm coming back to this point, that people have to fight for what they believe in. And the fight can't be waged at the party leadership level alone. Every gathering that you're in, you have to stand up and have your voices heard. As I said before, when you leave here, and for those who are listening to us at home, I want each of you to have a social media presence. Have a social media presence so that you can portray the positive nature of this party and you can fight off the naysayers. I want to end by saying that we are very appreciative of the support you have given to the party. We have to, this, as I said before, this is the only party at this point in time that can lead this country into the glorious future that all of us want and Cheddi Jagan fought for. Cheddi Jagan's principle, Janet Jagan, their whole lives, the principles upon which they found the party, all would be observed but changed to a different era now. We want to incubate a domestic private sector that will grow to compete with the foreign private sector. If you listen to some people helping the private sector, oh, isn't that building capitalism? Are you going away from the party? We're not too worried about the isms. We want to see all of our people, their lives improve. And the poor people, that's where we're starting. But we're not going to fall prey to some of the negatives recently. I've seen, as President Ali pointed out, some of the most vile criticizers of Cheddi Jagan. Suddenly, they are embracing Cheddi Jagan and they're worried about the legacy of his party. Some of them who were cheering on APNU when APNU was going to take away Red House and we had to go and stand there. Some of our people got beaten, their heads burst. We had to send them to the hospital, Jason Abdullah and all of the others, outside of Red House tonight, when they were trying to steal Red House. And they were being cheered on by some of the people today who they were saying that time it was a corrupt deal. And I see one or two of those same people now saying, oh, the PPP is moving away from Cheddi legacy. They want to say that they don't love the PPP. They're saying that because they want to create divisions in our ranks. They want our people to start second-guessing each other, because if they start second-guessing each other, they can't focus on the positive nature of this party. It's bringing people together, etc. So today, I just wanted to thank all of you for the unflinching support that you have given to our party for the ages, from Cheddy Jagan's time to today. Our fight continues, our struggle continues every single day to build a progressive, multiracial country where all of our people can live together in peace and prosperity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade General Secretary, for those enlightening words. And that, comrades, would have brought us to the end of our program for today. And in closing, I would first of all like to thank our GS, Dr. Bara Jagdeo, our President, Dr. Irfan Ali, and our Prime Minister, Mr. Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips, for those enlightening words and for once again reminding us where we were and how far we have come as a people. A special thank you to all the organizers of this event, the ushers, and all who would have come out to work to ensure today is possible and to make us all comfortable. And finally, a big thank you to all of you who would have come from near and far, would have come to be a part of today's activity. A big, big, big thank you. And I want to say, long live the People's Progressive Party Civic, and long live the memory, the legacy of Dr. Cheddy Jagan and Mrs. Janet Jagan.
Get up, stand up for your right. Get up, stand up for your right. Get up, stand up for your right. Get up, stand up, don't give up the fight. Preacher man, don't tell me heaven is under the earth. I know you don't know. grace for the hopeless sinners who has hurt all mankind. Just save us home, believe it. One love. What about a one heart? What about let's get together and feel alright? As it was in the beginning, one love. So shall it be in the end. One heart. Alright. Thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright. One more thing. Let's get together to fight this holy Armageddon. So when the man comes, there will be no doom.
Oh Bangali Babu, oh Bangali Babu, oh Bangali Babu, oh Bangali Babu. I am the very best at the Guyanese Babu. I am the very best at the Guyanese Babu. Oh Bangali Babu, oh Bangali Babu, oh Bangali Babu, oh Bangali Babu. We come from the country they call Guyana, land of the bauxite, the rice and sugar. We come from the country they call Guyana, land of the bauxite, the rice and sugar. Me say pack up me grip and let me go. Me got to come back to Guyana some more. Me say fi pack up me grip and let me go. Me got to go back to Guyana some more. Oh Bangali Babu, oh Guyana Babu, oh Bangali Babu, oh Guyana Babu. I am the very best at the Guyanese Babu. I am the very.
Please listen carefully. The vocalist is here. It's a blast from the heart. The Indian anthem is here. Let the dancing begin. Nazare apni mastiyan luta luta ke so gayi. Sitare apni roshni luta luta ke so. Please listen carefully. The vocalist is here. It's a blast from the heart. The Indian anthem is here. Let the dancing begin. Nazare apni mastiyan luta luta ke so gayi. Sitare apni roshni luta luta ke so gayi. हर एक शम्मा चल चुकी, ना जाने तुम कब आओगे। सुहानी रात ढल चुकी, ना जाने तुम कब आओगे। सुहानी रात ढल चुकी, ना जाने तुम कब आओगे। तड़प रहे हैं हम यहाँ। आजा
ताना ना ना ताना ये दिल है दीवाना तुम ताना ना ना ताना ये दिल है दीवाना तुम ताना ना ना ताना ये दिल है दीवाना गीत है इस जीवन का सुर है गीत है प्रेम तराना तुम ताना ना ना ताना ये दिल है दीवाना तुम ताना ना ना ताना ये दिल है दीवाना every day every time like a boss we gon' meet a line and every day every time like a thing we meet a line ये तेरी मेरी जिंदगी सुरों में है ढली हुई दुखों के पंचम कभी सुखों की कभी रागिनी ये तेरी मेरी जिंदगी सुरों में है ढली हुई दुखों की पंचम कभी सुखों की कभी रागनी Let's keep living सात सुरों की इस सरगम को देखो भूल न जाना तुम ताना ना ना ताना ये दिल है दीवाना This is Roy Chan. This is Roy Chan. This is Roy Chan. It's a human side when things go wrong, when the sin of lingering and temptation strong. कितना इसको समझाता हूँ, कितना इसको बहलाता हूँ.
Battery level is low. The aircraft will go to the home point in 10 seconds.
I love you, love for me, girl. Oh, yeah, girl. No, tell me no, 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 no. You gon' give me a no, 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 no. Tell me like, you gon' give me a no, 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 no. I see this one girl from my party, she wears yellow. Maybe all I got did is do to my blood, please girl, my love. Right in the right situation, I go use the girl, I'm mellow. Finally, I finally to talk to the girl, but she ain't never know. Who you gonna go for? Who you gonna go for? Then I start to feel like one more. And she dey give me small, small. I know, say she started to down. But she feeling insecure. As her friends go, they got my life ching go. Go, they got my life ching go. Baby, calm down, calm down. Yo, this your body, put your lights for lockdown, for lockdown, for lockdown. Yo, you feel like phantom, phantom. If I tell you say I love you, you know I do it for me, girl. Oh, yeah, girl. No, tell me no, 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 no. You gon' give me your no, 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 no. Tell me like, shawty gon' give me your no, 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 no. I said it's wrong, so you say me got a small one. Ask me how it come, she didn't know me. Yeah, one day, two, what do you do? Now show me I don't lie, so you can leave. As I start to look alive, you know my face. Baby girl, you didn't leave me, I don't want that again. Because you gave me the young, you blew my heart. Baby, you feel my pain. Baby, calm down, calm down. Yo, this your body, put your lights for lockdown, for lockdown, for lockdown. Yo, you feel like phantom, phantom. If I tell you say I love you, you know I do it for me, girl. Sorry, come over to like that. Animals, they ain't no fun. Body man, nobody like that. But you must have free if you want to. If no finish, they won't fight us. If them they run, them no pick up to. I know they come say I too like us. No come they come say you too like us. You no get it time for